What if everything you've been told about cannabis is incomplete? What if it's not the healer people praise, not the danger people fear, not the shortcut to peace, and not the escape it's often sold as? What if cannabis is something far more confronting? Because here's a question most people never ask. Why does the same plant relax one person and unravel another? Why does it spark creativity in some and anxiety in others? Why does it feel like insight one moment and confusion the next? The answer isn't in the plant. It's in you. Cannabis isn't just something you use. It's something you meet. And most people meet it unprepared. You've been taught to see weed in extremes, medicine or menace, sacred or sinful, enlightening or numbing. But none of those labels touch the deeper truth. Cannabis doesn't come with a fixed personality. It doesn't decide who you'll become. It amplifies what's already there. And that's exactly why it's powerful and why it's risky. In ancient cultures, cannabis was never casual. It wasn't background noise. It wasn't entertainment. It was a threshold, a tool used sparingly, carefully, and only within structure. Those who worked with it understood something modern culture has forgotten. Expanding the mind without preparation doesn't lead to freedom. It leads to exposure. Shamans, mystics, and seekers didn't turn to cannabis to feel good. They turned to it to see clearly, to dissolve illusions, not decorate them. The goal wasn't comfort. It was truth. And truth is rarely comfortable. In ancient India, cannabis was offered to Shiva, the destroyer of illusion, the force that breaks forms so something real can emerge. His ascetics didn't smoke to relax. They smoked to confront the self. The ritual wasn't about pleasure. It was about ego death. The plant wasn't the point. The transformation was. In early Taoist traditions, cannabis appeared in alchemical blends meant to refine perception and still the mind. It wasn't used to escape awareness, but to sharpen it. Ancient texts warned that without internal balance, the same substance that brings insight could disturb energy and destabilize the psyche. To the unready, it wasn't medicine. It was a challenge. Even among Sufi mystics, hashish was controversial. Some used it to dissolve identity into divine presence. Others warned it could mimic awakening without delivering it. The difference wasn't dosage. It was depth. The plant was only respected when it led to humility, not self-importance. Among Rastafarians, cannabis is ganja, the herb of wisdom. But it isn't used casually. It's prayed over, shared in reasoning circles, embedded in scripture, chant, and community. The purpose isn't escape. It's alignment, not forgetting the world, but remembering the divine within it. Across traditions, the message was consistent. Cannabis is a mirror. And mirrors are dangerous if you don't want to see yourself. Fast forward to now. The plant hasn't changed, but everything around it has. What was once sacred is now routine. What demanded preparation now demands nothing. You can buy cannabis as easily as candy. Use it while scrolling, while distracted, while disconnected. Ritual is gone. Structure is gone. Silence is gone. And without a container, amplification becomes indulgence. Cannabis doesn't offer balance. It offers intensity. Grounded people feel more grounded. Lost people feel more lost. Most don't realize they're stepping into a temple with no intention and wondering why the experience feels hollow or chaotic. The plant doesn't guide you, it reflects you. That's why preparation mattered so much in ancient use. Fasting, cleansing, silence, prayer, not superstition, stability. They knew the mind must be steady before it expands. Without that, the expansion isn't liberation, it's fragmentation. This explains something modern culture avoids talking about. Anxiety, paranoia, and fear during cannabis use aren't accidents. They're signals. People blame the strain, the dosage, the chemistry. But what if the plant is doing exactly what it's meant to do? What if it's stripping away distraction and revealing what's unresolved? Carl Jung called it the shadow. The parts of you pushed aside, unprocessed grief, suppressed anger, unspoken fear. Cannabis doesn't create these things. It turns up the volume. It's like an amplifier. It doesn't write the music. It just makes it louder. And for many people, what's playing beneath the surface isn't peace. It's tension. This is why serious spiritual paths always begin in discomfort, not visions, not bliss, confrontation, dissent, honesty. Cannabis can open that door. But only if you're willing to walk through it. The problem is, modern culture offers no guidance once the door opens. No elders, no grounding, no integration. You're alone, overstimulated, heart racing, wondering what went wrong. Nothing went wrong. Something real is happening. But without support, real feels terrifying. Esoteric psychology has long warned that altered states make the psyche porous, more open to insight, but also more vulnerable to confusion. If your inner world is chaotic, cannabis doesn't organize it. It exposes it. And here's the biggest misconception of all: believing the plant is meant to make you feel better. It isn't. It's meant to make you see. Seeing isn't always pleasant. Truth rarely is. Cannabis doesn't hand out comfort. It hands you information. And information demands responsibility. But because we've been trained to avoid discomfort, we label challenging experiences as bad trips and move on without reflection. No learning, no integration, just avoidance. The plant didn't make you anxious. It showed you anxiety you were already carrying. That honesty makes cannabis one of the most revealing tools available. But honesty isn't gentle. And without maturity, truth can feel like punishment. Another trap waits here, confusing intensity with transformation. Cannabis can make thoughts feel profound. Music feels cosmic. Insights feel monumental. Journals fill with revelations. But feeling deep isn't the same as becoming deep. The high can imitate awakening without creating it. Sensation masquerades as wisdom. This is what esoteric traditions call false light. Experiences that feel elevated but don't change behavior. Real transformation shows up after the experience. In how you treat people, how you face conflict, how you live when nothing feels mystical. Many long-term users accumulate insights but never apply them. Awareness floats, ego inflates, language becomes spiritual, but life stays the same. Suffering becomes poetic instead of resolved. Cannabis becomes part of an identity instead of a tool. That's not growth. That's stagnation with better vocabulary. The danger isn't dependency on the substance. It's dependency on the feeling of insight. True depth isn't measured by how high you go. It's measured by what you carry back. Cannabis affects more than thought. It touches the subtle body, the energetic framework beneath emotion and memory. When that system is clear, the plant can heighten sensitivity and intuition. When it's cluttered, it magnifies noise. Think of it like tuning an instrument. Cannabis doesn't tune you. It plays you. Practices like breathwork, silence, fasting, prayer, and grounding weren't optional in ancient traditions. They were hygiene. Ways to clear the field before amplification. Without grounding, openness becomes instability. Energy rises without containment. People feel expanded one moment and scattered the next. They mistake numbness for peace. But healing isn't numbness. Healing is clarity. Cannabis doesn't clean the house. It turns on the lights. What you see depends on what's already there. And here's where modern use goes wrong. The ritual was removed. Convenience replaced reverence. Capitalism repackaged the plant as a lifestyle. Smooth branding. Soft promises. No mention of shadow. No mention of responsibility. Now people smoke while multitasking, while scrolling, while distracting themselves from the very awareness the plant opens. Stimulation layered on stimulation. The result isn't insight. It's fog. Without a container, the experience spills into distraction. What could sharpen becomes dull. What could awaken becomes anesthetic. The plant didn't lose power. We lost discipline. Intention alone isn't enough. Cannabis doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to readiness. Used consciously, it can help reveal patterns, soften ego, and deepen perception. Used impulsively, it magnifies avoidance. So how do you engage without being consumed? You don't use cannabis as a first response. You don't reach for it to escape anxiety. You meet anxiety first. You ground. You breathe. You listen. Only then can the plant refine rather than disrupt. Ask better questions. Are you seeking clarity or comfort? Truth or relief? Exploration or avoidance? Cannabis should never replace self-work. It should only support it. Grounding matters. Silence matters. Integration matters. Write things down. Reflect sober. Apply what you learn. The goal isn't to stay high. It's to stay awake. Across cultures, cannabis was rarely used alone. It was communal. Circles, elders, witnesses, accountability. Community prevents illusion from becoming belief. When insight is shared, it's tested. When it's private, it often distorts. Alone, every idea feels true. In community, truth is refined. The circle holds what the individual cannot. It grounds the experience and demands responsibility. Not, what did you see? But, how will you live differently? Modern isolation turns altered states into echo chambers. Half-formed philosophies. Spiritual loneliness mistaken for awakening. But awakening doesn't isolate. It integrates. Eventually, every seeker reaches a point where novelty fades. Insights repeat. The thrill dissolves. That's not failure. That's graduation. Discernment becomes the work. The ability to question even your most meaningful experiences. To ask whether something is truth or projection. Cannabis will offer both. Without discernment, the ego rebrands itself as enlightened. Sensitivity becomes superiority. Confusion becomes doctrine. The plant is a compass, not a destination. It can point. It cannot walk. And one day, you realize the deepest lesson it offers, you never needed it. Not because it has no value, but because it was always pointing back to you. The clarity was yours. The stillness was yours. The insight was yours. The plant just reminded you. But remembering isn't becoming. Becoming happens in daily life, in patience, in honesty, in showing up when nothing feels elevated. Ancient traditions understood this. The ceremony ended. Life began. Integration was the practice. What good is vision if behavior stays the same? Real spirituality isn't aesthetic. It's embodied. It shows up in traffic, in heartbreak, in repetition. The goal was never to chase the light. It was to become steady enough to carry it. Cannabis was never meant to be worshipped. It was meant to be respected and eventually released. The greatest teaching it offers is this: the sacred doesn't live in smoke. It lives in how you live. So the real question isn't what you use, it's what you become. If this resonated, then you already understand something deeper than sensation. And that's where the real work begins. Comment below. I understood it.